Twitter was built for infinite scrolling, but there's a better way to experience Twitter content. Hi UCET, my name is Brooke Anderson, and I'm going to be talking to you today about Tweetdeck. Tweetdeck is my favorite tool for experiencing Twitter because it lets me organize my tweets by topic, by list, in a number of different ways, so I can build my own personal news site. And best of all, I get to skip all of the ads and the sponsored tweets and all of that nonsense out there on Twitter itself. For the purposes of this presentation, I'm going to assume that you already know what Twitter is and probably already have a Twitter account. And so you're used to seeing just this one continuous column of content on Twitter that you scroll through and you like, you retweet, etc. What Tweetdeck is it lets you build that out into multiple columns, and it lets you control what's in each column. So if I switch to my Tweetdeck, I can see that now I have a bunch of different Twitter feeds on all these different topics that I've set up and I've decided I would like to see. So I've got education journalists in one column and analysts and researchers in another. I've got a column just for the Silicon Slopes folks, for assessment experts, for economists, literacy experts, all those kinds of things I've put into their own columns on Tweetdeck. And so I can just keep adding columns, and you can see I've got quite a few. In this way, I have set up my own personal newspaper that's just giving me tweets and content about the things that I'm interested in. In my case, a lot of education policy. But you can set yours up to highlight anything and everything that you want to see tweets about. Now, let's get you logged into Tweetdeck. You're going to go to tweetdeck.twitter.com and you're going to log in using your Twitter username and password. Once you log in, you'll see that your basic home feed is already here for you. You've got the home feed in the first column, your notifications, and then trending topics over on the right. If you're not interested in any of these, you can always click at this icon at the top of a column and then select Remove. And then you're left with a blank slate. You'll use these options here on the left in order to add columns or other content. Notice down here at the bottom, you can actually set up multiple Twitter accounts to all run through the same Tweetdeck, which is really nice if you have more than one Twitter account. You can also collapse the left-hand screen so it's not in your way. And you can also see there is going to be a new version of Tweetdeck rolling out soon, I think, for everyone. If you want to try it, you can click on the preview icon if you have it. It's very similar, but we'll just be using the old version of Tweetdeck for now. So go ahead and log in to tweetdeck.twitter.com, and then we'll start adding columns. So we'll add our first columns, and they were actually the ones in my case that were already added for me, and I deleted them, so I'll add them back. We'll add my home feed by clicking on Add Column over here on the left, and then Home. And that will bring up the home feed that I always see when I log into Twitter, and I can add that as a column. And then I can add column again, click that again, and I can see any tweets that I've sent out by clicking on User. And it will default to my tweets, so I'll click Add Column. I could also put in a column of my notifications, anyone who has liked or retweeted or responded to any of my tweets, as a separate column. So those are 3 good things to start with. Go ahead and on your own, use the Add Column button to add a column for your notifications or your likes. And we'll pick up after that. Now let's get a little bit more specific with the columns that we're adding. In Twitter, of course, you can use hashtags to label or flag content by the topic that it's talking about. So if you want to tweet about the HBO show The Last of Us, you could write a tweet with hashtag The Last of Us, all as one word, and it would appear in everyone's feed or the conversations around that show. We're going to add a couple of columns that have hashtags that are specific to Utah education. So I'm going to use my Add Column button, and I'm going to use the search option. And I'm going to search for the hashtag UTED or Utah Ed. And click Enter. And now I've got a column that has all of the posts where people use that hashtag. And you can see that posts from UCET and UELMA and these other Utah conferences and from UEN folks, they're all popping up in this column. So anyone who uses the UTED hashtag, their tweet will appear here. Another hashtag that you might want to follow is UTED chat. So these are the Utah educator chats that happen every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. And you can see the questions and responses by putting in a column just about UTED chat. Another great way to see Utah education tweets. And of course, one hashtag that we should add is hashtag UCET23. That'll make it really easy to see the tweets about this conference all in one column. And if I see other hashtags in tweets that I want to follow, if I click on the hashtag, that will create a new column with all of the tweets for that hashtag. So it's really easy to create columns by hashtag. There are a number of hashtags that might lead you to content that is most relevant to you, and I'll put a bunch of them up on the screen, and take a minute and practice adding columns that have these hashtags so you can see the content particular to your interests. If you want to do a really deep dive on a particular topic, or just really focus in on the tweets from a particular account, you can add a column just for tweets from a single user on your Tweetdeck. This can be really helpful, say if you're taking a class and you're learning from someone and they have a Twitter account where they post a lot of content about that topic. Great, go ahead and put in a column just for that account and you'll learn a lot. So, in order to add an account for a specific user, go to Add Column and then choose User. It defaults to thinking that you're the user, but you can just use the search option right here to type in the Twitter handle of any user that you want to follow. So let's say I want to put in a column for the UT Board of Ed. So the Utah State Board of Education. So I search for that user, I'll select it and add that column. And now I've got a separate column with just the tweets coming from the Utah State Board of Education. So let's try that again. We'll go to Add Column, select User, and then I'll put in a column for UCET. And now I'll see all of the tweets coming from UCET, the Utah Coalition of Educational Technology. Let's try it again. I'll add column, click User, and maybe I want to see the tweets coming out of Education Week. So I'll type Education Week and search for them, and then add that as a column. Really easy. You can add any user as long as you know their Twitter handle. So let's try it. One account on Twitter always worth following is Cult of Pedagogy. If you don't already follow Jennifer Gonzalez, she's a former middle school educator who has a lot of very useful professional development resources and really great ways of framing things. One of my favorite things that she's published is this article on finding your marigold. And what that means is find someone who's going to help you grow, your companion plant. Basically, marigold is a helper companion plant in a garden that helps other things grow. And then she describes, other people that don't help you grow as a walnut tree. They kind of sap your resources. Twitter can be like that as well. So my recommendation when you're choosing accounts to follow is if you find an account that has, it's reinforcing a lot of those energy draining ideas. Oh, this is impossible. This is so hard. This is, things are worse than they've ever been. Maybe reconsider adding that as a major part of your feed and really focus on the marigolds, people who are going to give you strength, people who are going to give you resources, people who are going to help you keep climbing up that mountain. So that's my plug. Find the marigolds on Twitter as well. So you may not want to dedicate one column in your Tweetdeck exclusively to one user account. Instead, you may want to make a list of accounts that are all following the same topic or, have the same theme in your mind, and then add the list of users as a column in Tweetdeck. That does presuppose that you have lists that you've made in your Twitter account or that you have subscribed to other people's lists. If you haven't done that yet, no worries. I'll show you how to do that. But it does make it really easy to add a column of really curated content to your Tweetdeck. So, as I said, I think it's important to follow marigolds, people who build you up. So I made a list in my own Twitter account of marigold teachers on Twitter that I really like to follow. So I'm going to add a column for those marigolds. So I'll click here, add column, and I want to add it from a list. And so I'm going to search my list for my marigolds list. Select that and add that as a column. And for me, this is the real secret of why Tweetdeck is so wonderful. It's because I organize a lot of my Twitter follows, accounts that I subscribe to, into lists. And so I can just pop in lists into my Tweetdeck by the topics that I've already organized. So I've got my professors and researchers and analysts already in a list. I click on that list, and now they've got their own column. My education data accounts, I've put them in a list, and now they're a separate column in my feed. Accounts related to assessment development, add those. I've got a list of education economists, So I'll add those, and education journalists, and education historians. So all of these topics that I'm interested in, I've curated a list of users who tweet about those topics, who are experts in those topics, and then I basically set up my Tweetdeck according to those lists. And that is a really powerful way of turning Tweetdeck into your own personal news magazine. But it does mean that you need to spend some time creating those lists in your own Twitter account. And I'll show you how to do that. The other option that you have is you can subscribe to other people's lists, and you can just add, once you subscribe to them, you can add their lists to your Tweetdeck as well. So I'll give you an example. Let's say I want to add a column of the Utah House of Representatives members that have Twitter accounts. Ben Winslow, who's a reporter for Fox 13, he has a Twitter list of those accounts, and so I've subscribed to his list, which means it appears when I want to add a list to my Tweetdeck. So I select his list, and I add that as a column. And I can see at the top of the column, it's clearly labeled as the name of the list and the user that the list came from. So let's go ahead and get out there on Twitter and either build some lists or subscribe to some lists so you can add them to your Tweetdeck. So in order to organize our Tweetdeck around lists, we have to have lists to work from. The simplest approach is to simply make a list of teachers that you would like to follow. We built some columns into our Tweetdeck that are using the hashtags UtahEd, UCET 23, UtahEdChat, and maybe some other hashtags that you've added as well. So this is a great way to get a feel for which accounts are following certain topics. So we can just add the accounts that we find in these, current views to a list. And we'll call that list Utah Teachers. So I can see Matthew Winters here from UEN. So I'll click on his profile name, and then I can go to this little ... option and see I have the option to add or remove him from lists. So I'll select that option. And I already have a Utah Educators list, but I'll make a new one by scrolling down and selecting Create New List. And then I'll call my list Utah Teachers. And my description is, this is a practice list for the Tweetdeck 101 session. And I'm going to list it as public. You don't have to keep your list public. The advantage of having public lists is that other people can subscribe to them, but if that's not something that you want, then make the list private. You can still add a private list to your Tweetdeck. It's just that no one else can add it to their Tweetdeck. And then I'll save. And now I have a list called Utah Teachers with one person on that list. So I'll click Done, or I can right here go in and start entering other people onto that list. So we'll say me, Anderbrook. We can search for me and add me to the list. I can see Natalie Johnson, and so I can click on her name and click Add or Remove from Lists and add her to my teachers list as well. Georgiana Simpson. Click Add or Remove from Lists. Double check Utah Teachers. There we go. So go ahead and take a minute, build a list, and add some accounts to that list. Once you have the list, go ahead and click Add Column, and then choose List, and then find the list that you built, in my case, Utah teachers, and add that as a column. And there you go, you're well on your way. Now, I've been using Twitter and Tweetdeck and lists for years, so I've had a long time to build lists of users that I'm really interested in hearing from. And, maybe we won't be able to give you all of that time today in this session, but we can certainly get you subscribing to other people's lists, which is a great shortcut. So for example, if you can find me, you can search for me at Anderbrook, or if you've pulled up those other, hashtags, I'm probably in there as well. You can search for me and then see my lists right here. And then you'll be able to find the list, let's say the list of marigolds, and then add that as a column or subscribe to that. So let's find that with someone else. Let's say Matthew Winters from UEN. If we click on his profile name and then list, we'll see he's got some lists that he has made himself, and some lists that he is subscribed to. So let's say we want to subscribe to the list Astronauts in Space Now. We can click on that list and then add that column. Or if we want to add the list of ed chats that he's curated, we can click on that and add that column. Maybe I'm curious about some lists from other users, like the State Board of Education. They subscribe to a list of Utah reporters, so we can add that column. Or Allison Riddle, our Teacher of the Year in 2014. We can see if she has any lists. And she's subscribed to my Marigolds list. So we can click on that and add that column. All right, so find some users from the tweets that you're looking at, click on their name and see what list they have or what lists they're subscribed to, and then go ahead and select those and add those columns. Now I've added quite a lot to my screen, so if you're feeling crowded like I am, you can always click remove. Remember, you can click up here and click remove and clean up your screen a little bit. So another way to find lists to add to your Tweetdeck or to subscribe and follow to is to see what lists people are on. It's always intriguing to see what lists people are on. So let's say Matthew Winters again. We can see right here the number of tweets, the number of people he's following, the number of people who follow him, and how many times he has been listed or how many lists he's on. So we'll click here. And then we can see there's a lot of great lists that you might want to add to your Tweetdeck. Okay, so let's say I want a list of Google certified trainers. I can click on that list and then follow the list. And now when I go back to my Tweetdeck, I'll go to Add Column, List, and there it is. I'm subscribed to G4E Certified Trainers, and I can add that column. Let's try another one. Let's see what list John Arthur is on. So our Utah Teacher of the Year from 2021. So I can see here he's following, how many he's following, how many followers he has, and that he's on 20 Twitter lists. So let's see what those are. So we've got Teachers of the Year, Utah Teacher Fellows, Wisdom and Thought Leader. This is great. Hope Street Group, Follow Utah. It's a pretty clear one. Awesome. So let's say I want a column dedicated to Teachers of the Year. So I'll click on this list and then follow. And now I can add that to my Tweetdeck by going back, clicking on Add Column, List, Add Column, List, and where did it go? I'll try again. So Teachers of the Year, I'm following the list. Maybe I have to refresh my screen. I'll click Add Column, List. There it is. I just needed to refresh my screen. You'll probably have to do that too, it looks like. And then I can add that column and see tweets from Teachers of the Year, which is great. All right, let's try it out for you. Go ahead and find a user and see what lists they're on and pick a list or 2 or 3 or more to add to your Tweetdeck. So now that you have maybe as many columns as I do on your Tweetdeck, let's pause and see how we can manage these columns. Number one, you'll notice at the top of the column they are all numbered, and underneath the number there's a little 4-bar icon. Well, you can grab that. If you want to change what you see first or what you see last, you can change the order of the columns using this little bar underneath the column number. The other thing to know is, of course, you can use this icon to open up a menu for each column. And you can remove the column, you can clear the column until new tweets are available. You can even get an embed code if you wanted to maybe add this particular, column of content to a website. And then if you're really brave, you can make your media preview size even smaller, or you can make it larger. So that you see a little bit less per column, per page. And then if you want to limit who you see in each column, you can filter out certain users or filter to certain users. So maybe in my Teachers of the Year column, I'm going to limit the tweet authors to only verified users. That is possible to do. Maybe in my Utah Education column, my Utah Ed column, I could filter to only the tweets that are mentioning me. And no recent tweets appear. All right. But that's an option. I can also filter to tweets that are from Utah. So maybe if I, don't want to hear tweets from, maybe spam tweets from around the world about Utah, I can say, okay, I want only tweets from around Salt Lake City. And it's okay if they don't mention me, it's fine. So now we're just seeing tweets from around Salt Lake City. And then of course I can also filter by the tweet content. Maybe I only want to see tweets with GIFs, if I really like GIFs, or images or videos. Or what's really common, at least for me, is sometimes I exclude retweets. If I only want to see what tweets people are actually typing and sending themselves, then I might exclude retweets and narrow down what I'm getting from that list or feed. If I want to, get rid of certain words from my feed, I can. Or if I want to match words, I can. So let's see if I can filter my tweet content to only tweets featuring the word justice. I just want to see what's going on with justice. There we go. Now only tweets featuring the word justice are there. So there's lots of options for how you can filter and manage what is showing up in the multiple timelines that you've added to your Tweetdeck. So why don't you go ahead and play around with that for a minute, and then we'll close out, we'll finish up. Of course, you may not want to use Tweetdeck only for reading tweets. You may also want to send them, and Tweetdeck makes that really easy. Just click on this blue tweet button in the upper left corner, and then you can type out your tweet, and you've got easy options for adding images or video, scheduling the tweet, or sending it as a direct message. So I'll go ahead and type out how excited I am to be going to UCET next week and how I hope to see all of you there. So I can either schedule the tweet for a date and time, or I can tweet right now. Go ahead and send out your own tweet using the hashtag UCET23 or Together at UCET. And thanks so much for joining this session. My name is Brooke Anderson. You can follow me on Twitter at AnderBrooke, and I'd love to connect with you there. Have a great day and a great conference.